Dive Podcast, straight talk on politics, national security, and America's future. With Robert Johnson and Linda Miller, we cut through the spin, tackle the tough issues, and give you the real story behind today's headlines. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell to stay informed. Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're looking at some pretty notable statements that have come out recently.
Right, touching on Ukraine, Russia, Poland, some key players.
Exactly. We'll start with comments from Russian officials about Ukrainian children, which is obviously a very sensitive area. And then we'll shift gears and look at Poland's incoming president and his views on Ukraine joining the EU.
Kind of getting a snapshot of the official lines being put out there.
Precisely, just laying out what's being said. So let's dive in.
Okay.
First up, these statements regarding children. The Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Maria Zakharova, she made a pretty clear statement.
Yeah, she directly addressed the accusations of kidnapping. She denied it flat out.
Denied it. She's reported as saying the children in Russia either don't have documents or, relatives are looking for them.
And the quote itself is quite strong. Something like, "There are no kidnapped Ukrainian children by Russia."
This simply needs to be known. And this should be the starting point when discussing this problem. That's the quote reported.
Right. Setting their narrative as the factual basis, essentially. She also mentioned Maria Belova, the Children's Rights Commissioner, is working on this.
So establishing their position very clearly.
Definitely. A direct rebuttal of that specific terminology.
Okay, and then connected to this, there's Vladimir Medinsky, the assistant to Russian President Putin. He heads their delegation in the Istanbul talks.
Right. He also spoke about this children issue.
He confirmed that during talks on June 2nd in Istanbul, the Ukrainian side actually handed over a list of children for return.
And there's a specific number attached to that list.
339 names. That's the figure reported.
339.
And what's interesting is how Medinsky reportedly framed this number. He mentioned that Ukraine had previously talked about much, much larger figures.
Yeah, he cited, 1.5 million, then 200,000, then 20,000. Huge numbers.
And he said Russia kept asking for documentation, for names, proof.
Right. His quote, roughly, was that they constantly tried to get confirmation, asked for names, details, statements from parents, but just got bare numbers.
Until now, apparently. He said, now we have finally received a full list. And then he contrasts it. As you can see, it's not 1.5 million, not 20,000, but 339 names.
So using that list and that specific number to directly challenge the scale previously presented by Kyiv.
Exactly. And he added that all requests concerning the children on this list will be looked at, quote, without exception.
Okay. And did he mention actual exchanges?
Yes, he gave figures for that too. Said the Russian commissioner's office transferred 101 children to Ukraine.
101 and back to Russia.
Only 22 children returned to Russia from Ukraine, according to his figures.
So the narrative presented there is denial of kidnapping, a much smaller documented list received, and more children sent back to Ukraine than received by Russia.
That's the picture painted by those specific statements, yes. It really underscores the battle over facts and framing in this situation.
Absolutely. The emphasis on documentation, specific lists, it shifts the focus.
Okay, let's pivot now. We'll move from those statements to perspectives coming out of Poland regarding Ukraine's European ambitions.
Right. This involves Karol Narocki, who just won the presidential election in Poland. He takes office in August.
Poland's been such a key supporter of Ukraine, so his comments definitely caught attention.
For sure. So what did he say?
Well, in an interview with Hungarian media, Mandaner, he apparently stated opposition to Ukraine joining the EU right now.
Oh, okay. That's significant.
The quote reported is very direct. At the moment, I oppose Ukraine's accession to the European Union.
Wow. And his reasoning?
He reportedly explained that, while Europe supports Kyiv, Ukraine needs to get that other countries like Poland and Hungary have their own national interests.
So balancing wartime support with domestic concerns, what specific interests did he mention for Poland?
Two main ones came up. First, the issue of exhuming victims of the Volyn massacre.
Ah, yes. That's a deeply sensitive historical issue between Poland and Ukraine. Events from 1942-43.
Terrible events. Ethnic Poles killed in western Ukraine. Estimates range from 50,000 to 100,000 Polish victims. Poland's parliament called it genocide back in 2016.
And Poland just recently, like early June 2025, made July 11th a state holiday for remembrance.
Right. And Ukraine's foreign ministry wasn't happy about that, saying it doesn't help reconciliation. So you see, this history is very much alive and impacting current politics.
Absolutely. For Narocki to link this to EU membership, it suggests he sees resolving this as, well, maybe not a precondition, but certainly a major factor.
Seems that way. He also mentioned during his campaign his opposition to what he called unfair competition for Polish farmers.
The agricultural imports from Ukraine, that's been a huge political issue in Poland and other neighboring countries. Protests, blockades.
Exactly. So domestic economic pressure is the second point he raised. Protecting Polish farmers.
Makes sense from a domestic politics angle. Those are powerful constituencies.
And after he won the election, Narocki reportedly said he expects these pressing historical issues with Ukraine to be resolved.
Which, again, puts the focus back on things like Volyn. It raises questions about the timing. Can these deep historical wounds be addressed adequately while also pushing for something as huge as EU membership, especially during a war?
It's a complex calculation. The sources also noted he opposed Ukraine joining NATO during his campaign.
Okay, so opposition to both EU and NATO accession, at least for now.
Yes. And the material connects his NATO stance to Russia's position that Ukraine staying out of NATO is a condition for ending the conflict.
So his stance aligns, at least on the surface, with a key Russian demand, though his reasoning might be different. It signals a more, let's say, cautious approach from the incoming Polish leadership compared to maybe what was expected.
Definitely a shift, or at least a complication. And finally, the sources briefly mentioned Hungary, Viktor Orban, also opposing Ukraine's EU path, talking about an endless war.
Right, so Poland and Hungary voicing reservations, even as Brussels is reportedly suggesting talks could start this year.
It just shows that Ukraine's road to the EU isn't straightforward. There are significant national interests, historical baggage, economic factors, all playing a role, even among allies.
Yeah, it's not a unified bloc marching in lockstep. These statements from Russia about the children, emphasizing their narrative and specific numbers, and then these comments from Poland's president-elect tying EU hopes to historical issues and farmer interests. It pulls back the curtain a bit.
It really does. You see the different pressures and priorities shaping the public discourse. Much more layered than the headlines often suggest.
Indeed. Lots of complexity beneath the surface.
Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. We are here to make things clear, new episodes every day.